get that feeling that truth is, well, just up for grabs? That what's real just depends on who you ask at the moment? It feels like a very modern problem, right? But the questions behind it are actually ancient. And for centuries, one thinker has offered a really powerful way forward, right through all that confusion. So let's dive into his ideas. I mean, listen to that. That quote sounds like it could have been posted on social media like 5 minutes ago. It's so raw, it's despairing, and it really captures a feeling I think a lot of us can understand, this sense that the world is so confusing, so harsh, that any kind of hope just feels naive. That feeling of being totally lost, that's our starting point for this whole conversation.
So, how are we supposed to respond to that darkness? Is truth something we can actually find, something we can hold on to? Or are we just stuck in a world of subjective opinions, where religion is nothing more than a personal, emotional choice?
And look, this isn't just some philosophical game. We're living right in the middle of what a lot of people call a crisis of truth. It's marked by this deep skepticism, the idea that we can't really be sure about anything, and relativism, which says, you have your truth, I have my truth. The dominant idea in so many places is that we actually can't know objective theological truth. It's all just opinion. But what if that's not the whole story? Okay, so this is where we bring in our guide. And we're not talking about some dusty historical figure. We're looking at him as someone who gives us a really solid logical framework for finding truth even in our own time. Thomas Aquinas basically helps us say, hold on, no, this is about the real world. We can know things. We can know truth. So where does Aquinas even start with a task that big? He starts right where we are, with the tools every single one of us has. He begins with the power of the human mind itself, our reason. He really wants to defend our ability to use our own minds to get to know the very foundations of reality. And what's so cool about this is how much credit Aquinas gives to our own intellect. He argues that just by looking at the world around us, its beauty, its incredible order, and what he calls the natural law that seems to be written on our hearts, our own reason can start to piece things together. We can figure out that there has to be some kind of intelligent creator. We can get, as he calls them, inklings of God, all on our own. But, and this is the huge turning point, Aquinas is no rationalist. He knows that reason, as powerful as it is, just can't get us all the way there. Our minds can say true things about God for sure, but we can never, ever fully exhaust the divine mystery with our minds alone. It's just not possible. And this quote just brilliantly lays out the problem. I mean, think about it. If we had to rely only on our own brain power, how many of us have the time or the training to figure out deep truths about God? Very few. And even if they did, they'd almost certainly get a few things wrong along the way. That is not a very reliable system for something so important. So, if our reason has its limits, what's the solution? What's the missing piece? For Aquinas, the answer is divine revelation. And this is key. It's not something that competes with reason. It's the help that our reason needs to overcome what he called the dullness of our intellects and finally gain some certainty. This is one of the most famous lines from Aquinas, and it is the key to this whole thing. Revelation, which is a form of God's grace, doesn't get rid of our natural reason. It doesn't cancel it out. It elevates it. It perfects it. It gives our intellect the kind of clarity and certainty that it could just never get to on its own. You can almost think of revelation as a filter, or maybe a clarifying lens. Our minds can come up with all sorts of ideas and metaphors for God. Some are good, some are not so good. Revelation helps us sort through all those ideas, keeping the true parts and getting rid of the errors that come from our own limited human perspective. Okay, let's make this super practical. Your reason might look at God's power and say, God is my rock. And that's a true and powerful metaphor. But without any help, you might start thinking of God as a literal, unthinking physical stone. Revelation steps in and clarifies. It teaches us that rock is about God's eternal stability and faithfulness. It sorts out the metaphor so we get the real truth without falling into error. So the most important point here is that these two things are not in competition. They are not enemies. For Aquinas, they are partners in this huge project, the search for truth. They're in communion. So let's take a look at how this partnership actually works. This table lays it out just perfectly. Think of reason as the matter, the raw material, the container. It does the hard work of investigating the physical world, looking at history, using logic. But revelation is like the soul or the form. It's the divine truth that comes in and fills that container, giving it life, meaning, and its ultimate purpose. And the best place to see this partnership in action is in how we read Scripture. Aquinas absolutely insisted that any spiritual understanding has to be built on the literal sense of the text. So our reason studies the history, the language, the context. That's the matter. And because Scripture is so massive and complex, reason also develops tools, like the Church's creeds, to help hold all that truth together. All that hard work becomes the solid foundation we need to understand the deeper, divine message, the soul of the text. Okay, so why does any of this really matter? Because for Aquinas, figuring all this out isn't just some academic exercise. It's not about winning a debate or getting a good grade. It's about something way, way bigger. Aquinas had this term, sacra doctrina, which means sacred teaching. And for him, theology wasn't a subject like biology or history that you just learn and master. No, it's a way of life. It's a reality that you enter into, a relationship you actually live in. And in this way of life, God is the one doing the teaching. We're the students. The whole goal isn't to master God, but to let God teach us, to let Him show us our place inside the grand story that He's revealing to us through both the book of nature and the book of Scripture. And that brings us to this final, beautiful idea. Aquinas says that God is the first truth. He's the source and the cause of every other truth that exists. So what does that mean for us? It means that every single time you discover something true, whether it's in science, in art, in a relationship, anywhere, you're getting a little glimpse, an inkling of God Himself. The whole pursuit of knowledge, then, isn't just about collecting facts. It's a journey home.